pastor here at Queen Street United Methodist Church in Kinston, North Carolina. Welcome to our weekly Bible study. And today we are going to be covering Numbers chapter 22 and following about King Balak and Balaam. This is considered one of the most humorous stories in the Old Testament. Let's go into a little bit of background on this, okay? The people of Israel are now encamped in this story over here on the plains of Moab, which is on the Transjordan, which is the eastern side of it. When people talk about Transjordan, they're talking about the eastern side of the Jordan. And so Moab is down here near the southern part of the Dead Sea. This is Edom, and now they seem to have bypassed Edom, where they were prohibited from going through. Okay, they've done some other maneuvers. They've had a defeat and then a successful battle, and now they're on the plains of Moab. And the problem with the Israelites being on the plains of Moab is that they seem to have been very fertile. Okay, all of a sudden their population has exploded. Now, understand this. Out here is wilderness, okay? So once they cross over here and get into the plains of Moab, they are no longer in the wilderness. They have gone out of the wilderness. Now they are in fertile territory, okay? And as a result of that, and we don't have a timeline sense of, how long they were there or whatever, but it just seems as though when they finally moved into the plains of Moab, they're a pretty significant force. The primary function of gods in this whole area has to do with fertility. So Baal, other gods and goddesses have to do with fertility. And the primary reason why people worship these gods and goddesses in that area is so and their population will grow. Okay? They have rituals every season, including the Israelites also have rituals every season that invoke God's fertility, God bringing them good crops and prosperity and a larger population. So whereas our religion focuses on things like salvation, okay, the primary focus for people in this region is fertility. And here you have these people who have moved into the plains of Moab, and they are fertile like you wouldn't believe. Okay? So the king of Moab, his name is Balak, is very distressed that he's being confronted by this huge population. He is a reflection of the biggest concern that Pharaoh had when the people were in Egypt. The Pharaoh said, let us enslave them and let's do things to cut down on their population, because the population of the children of Israel is so great that they pose an actual threat to the nation of Egypt. And so that was what prompted the Egyptians to start persecuting them and to kill off all the male children and that sort of thing, to cut down on the fertility of these people who were in Egypt because they represented a population threat. Okay? I don't know if we have anything like that going on today, but I'm just saying it can be disturbing when foreigners seem to outpopulate your own population. I'm just saying. Okay.
Right.
So okay, are we getting this? Okay.
Yes.
So here on the plains of Moab, you have an incredibly populous people on the verge of coming into Moabite territory. Okay. So what is Balak going to do? Balak has to do something to impede the fertility of the people of Israel. And the best way to do that is to curse them. Okay? If you can put a curse on them, they're not going to be able to reproduce. So, where do you buy a curse? Okay, we're usually self-contained on that. Okay, but back then, if you wanted a curse, you had to pay for it. So, you have to go to the best curser that you can get. Okay, and the best curser they could get was a guy named Balaam, who lived up on the banks of the Euphrates River, off of the map. Okay, so he's got to come down from way up north, somewhere around in Syria today, to come all the way perform a curse on the children of Israel. So here it goes, chapter 22. The Israelites set out and camped in the plains of Moab across the Jordan from Jericho. Now Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. They beat up on the Amorites, took several Amorite cities, and basically annihilated the people and burned their towns. Everything that they did to the Amorites was what we call dedicated to God. And if things are dedicated to God, it means that the people take no spoil, but they destroy everything that's there. Okay? So we have a different perspective on what it means to have things dedicated to God these days. But back then, it was not a good thing to be dedicated to God. It meant that they whacked you. Okay? So, and Moab said to the elders of Midian, the horde will now look up. Oh, here we go. Moab was in great dread of the people because they were so numerous. The same word dread is the same one that referred to what Pharaoh felt when he saw the population exploding. Moab was overcome with fear of the Israelites, and Moab said to the elders of Midian, this horde will now lick up all that is around us as an ox licks up the grass of the field. Now Balak, son of Zippor, was king of Moab at that time. He sent messengers to Balaam, son of Beor, Pethor, which is on the Euphrates in the land of Amwal. And we don't know exactly where the land of Amwal was, but we do know where the Euphrates is. Okay. To summon him, saying, a people has come out of Egypt. They have spread over the face of the earth, and they have settled next to me. Come now, curse this people for me, since they are stronger than I. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land. For I know that whomever you bless is blessed, and whomever you curse is cursed. So how about that? This guy is effective. Okay, he's got a track record. All right. So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fees for divination in their hand. And they came to Balaam and gave Balak's message. And he said to them, stay here tonight, and I'll bring back a word to you, just as the Lord speaks to me. So the officials of Moab stayed with Balaam. God came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? Balaam said to God, okay, King Balak, son of Zippor of Moab, has sent me this message. Look, a people has come out of Egypt and spread over the face of the earth. Now curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to fight against them and drive them out. God said to Balaam, you shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. So Balaam rose in the morning and said to the officials of Balak, go to your own land, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you. So the officials of Moab arose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. Well, bummer. Okay. It's very interesting what's going on here in terms of references to God. Okay. The word for God that's used here is Elohim. Okay. So you have an Israelite writer referring to Elohim, who is not a pagan god, talking to Balaam directly, who is not an Israelite. Okay? When Balaam refers to God, he calls him Yahweh. So we are talking about somebody, Balaam, who is a monotheist, but not in the cult of Israel. Not part of that. Okay? Once again, Balak sent officials more numerous and more sophisticated than these. They came to Balaam and said, thus says Balak, son of Zippor, do not let anything hinder you from coming to me, for I will surely do you great honor, and whatever you say to me, I will do. Come, curse this people for me. But Balaam replied to the servants of Balak, command the command of the Lord my God to do less or more. You also stay here overnight so that I may learn what more the Lord may say to me. That night God came to Balaam and said to him, if the men have come to summon you, get up and go with them, but do only what I tell you to do. So Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the officials of Moab. Now God's telling Balaam, you can go with them, but you can only do what I tell you. All right? So it sounds like a plan. Verse 22. This is utter confusion. God's anger was kindled because he was going, and the angel of the Lord took a stand on the road as his adversary. Now he was riding on the donkey. Okay, so now God is angry at him for going with these guys when God specifically told him to go with these guys. Okay. It's in your Bible. Okay. Now he was riding on the donkey, and his two servants were with him. The donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. So the donkey turned off the road. Yeah, I'll turn off my paper here. And went into the field. And Balaam struck the donkey to turn it back on the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards with a wall on either side. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it scraped against the wall and scraped Balaam's foot against the wall, so he struck it again. I myself have had this happen. Okay, I had a friend in my first parish who had a horse and invited me to ride the horse with her. Okay, so I rode that horse, and she rode the other horse. And this horse evidently did not like the idea that I was riding on the horse. So the horse did everything it could to rub me into fences, thorns, whatever. You know, the horse and I did not get. I thought there might have been an angel in the way or something. Anyway. All right. Then the angel of the Lord went ahead and stood in a narrow place. There was no way to turn either left or right. When the donkey saw the angel, it lay down under Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled, and he struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and it said to Balaam, what have I done to you that you struck me these 3 times? And instead of saying, I didn't know you could talk,
Right.
Balaam said to the donkey, evidently they've had plenty of conversations before. Balaam said to the donkey, because you've made a fool of me, I wish I had a sword in my hand. Balaam, am I not your donkey, which you have ridden all your life to this day? Have I been in the habit of treating you this way? And he said, no. Okay. I don't know if any of you have ever had a conversation or an argument with a donkey. I know that in my life I have several times. But anyway. Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his drawn sword in his hand. He bowed down, falling on his face. The angel of the Lord said to him, why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? I've come out as an adversary because your way is perverse before me. Well, God told him to do this. Okay. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let it live. Then Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing in the road to oppose me. Well, that's not the only thing he didn't know. He didn't know that God all of a sudden got mad at him, you know. Okay. Now, therefore, if it is displeasing to you, I'll return home. The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, go with the men, but speak only what I tell you to speak. Okay. That's what I heard the first time, you know. So Balaam went with the officials of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam had come, he went out to meet him at Ir Moab on the boundary. At the farthest point of the boundary, Balak said to Balaam, did I not send to summon you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you? Balaam said to Balak, I have come to you now, but do I have the power to say just anything? The word God puts in my mouth, that is what I must say. Then Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kiriath Huzoth, Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep and sent them to Balaam and to the officials who were with him. Okay, so, that's a big deal. He sacrificed oxen and sheep. There's a lot of meat there, and he sent it off to these guys. That's a big deal there. All right. On the next day, Balak took Balaam and brought him to Bamoth Baal, and from there he could see part of the people of Israel. So he's over here, someplace around here, and he's able to overlook the plains of Moab, which are in here. Okay, so he's able to see the people. Okay. Chapter 23. Then Balaam said to Balak, build me 7 altars here and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me. Balak did as Balaam had said and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to Balak, stay here beside the burnt offerings while I go aside. Perhaps the Lord will come to meet me. Whatever he shows me, I will tell you. And he went to a bare height. Okay.
What does that mean? He went to a bare height.
He went to a mountain where evidently you could look out from the mountain without trees getting in the way. Barren, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's no end to barren mountains anywhere around the Dead Sea. I just want you to know. Okay. 43, 44. Okay. Then God met Balaam, and Balaam said to him, I have arranged 7 altars and have offered a bull and ram on each altar. The Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, return to Balak, and this is what you must say. So he returned to Balak, who was standing beside his burnt offerings with all the officials of Moab. Then Balaam uttered this oracle, saying, okay, let's stop there. Balaam is speaking in poetic language at this point. There are 4 oracles of Balaam, and 3 of them pertain to Israel, and the last one pertains not only to Moab, but to other nations that would ally with Moab or whose territory was in the target zone for Israel's invasion. Okay. Balak has brought me from Aram, the king of Moab from the eastern mountains. Come curse Jacob for me. Come denounce Israel. How can I curse whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce those whom God is not reckoning itself among the nations? Who can count the dust of Jacob or number the dust of Israel? Let me die the death of the upright, and let my end be like his. Phew. Then Balak said to Balaam, what have you done to me? I brought you to curse my enemies. Now you've done nothing but bless them. He answered, must I not take care to say what the Lord puts in my mouth? Yeah. So, okay. So he hasn't cursed Israel. He said, boy, they're really something. That's basically what he said. Boy, they're really something. Okay. So Balak said to him, come with me to another place from which you may see them. Because you didn't get the whole picture. Okay. You don't understand what's going on. Let me show you the whole thing. Okay. How bad this is. All right. You shall see only part of them and then not see them all. Then curse them for me from there. So he took him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, here in North Carolina. Okay. He built 7 altars and offered a bull and ram on each altar. So this is getting expensive. Okay. Balaam said to Balak, stand here beside your burnt offerings while I meet the Lord over there. The Lord met Balaam, put a word into his mouth, and said, return to Balak, and this is what shall say. When he came to him, he was standing beside his burnt offering with the officials of Moab. Balak said to him, what has the Lord said? Then Balaam uttered this oracle, saying, rise, Balak, and hear. Listen to me, O son of Zippor. God is not a human being that he should lie, or a mortal that he should change his mind. He has promised, and he will not. He has promised, and will he not do it? He has spoken, and will he not fulfill it? See, I received a command to bless, and he has blessed, and I cannot revoke it. He has beheld misfortune in Jacob, for he has seen trouble in Israel. The Lord their God is with them, acclaimed as king among them. God who brings them out of Egypt is like the horns of a wild ox for them. Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, no divination against Israel. Now it shall be said of Jacob and Israel, see what God has done. Look, a people rising up like a lioness and rousing itself like a lion. It does not lie down until it has eaten its prey and drunk the blood of the slain. Well, that's not exactly what I was paying for, you know. So once again, things aren't going well for Balak. Then Balak said to Balaam, do not curse them at all, and do not bless them at all. Just stay neutral. Yeah. If you're not going to curse them, don't bless them. Okay? We can go, I'll be satisfied if you just stay out of it from now on. Okay. But what Balaam answered Balak, did I not speak to you, saying, whatever the Lord says, this is what I must do? So Balak said to Balaam, come now, I will take you to another place. Perhaps it will please God that you may curse them for me from there. So Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, which overlooks the wasteland. Balaam said to Balak, build me 7 altars. Okay, I gotta flip my page. 7 altars here. Prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me. So Balak did as Balaam had said and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Now Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, so he did not go, as at other times, to look up for omens, but set his face toward the wilderness. Balaam looked up and saw Israel camping by the tribe by tribe. Then the Spirit of God came upon him, and he uttered this oracle. The oracle of Balaam, son of Beor, the oracle of a man whose eye is clear, the oracle of one who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down but with eyes uncovered. How fair are your tents, O Jacob, your encampments, O Israel, like palm groves that stretch far away, like gardens beside a river, like aloes the Lord has planted, like cedar trees beside the waters. Water shall flow from his buckets, and his seed shall have abundant water. His king shall be higher than Agag. Now this is interesting because Israel doesn't have a king. All right? So what does this tell you? This tells you that this writing was commissioned by a king. So this is a later writing. Okay? Because Israel doesn't have a king. God who brings him up out of Egypt is like the horns of a wild ox for him. He shall devour the nations that are his foes and break their bones. He shall strike with his arrows. He crouched, he lay down like a lion, and like a lioness who will rouse him up. Blessed is everyone who blesses you, and cursed is everyone who curses you. Iran might be finding that out today. So then Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. Balak said to Balaam, I summoned you to curse my enemies, but instead you have blessed them these 3 times. Now be off with you. Go home, I said. I will reward you richly, but the Lord has denied you any reward. And Balaam said to Balak, did not I speak to your messengers whom you sent to me, saying, if Balak should give me his house full of silver and gold, I would not be able to go beyond the word of the Lord, to do either good or bad of my own advice. Let me advise you what this people will do to your people in days to come. And then comes the 4th oracle. So he uttered this oracle, saying, his oracle, the oracle of Balaam, son of Beor, the oracle of a man whose eye is clear, the oracle of one who hears the words of God and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down but with eyes uncovered. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. It shall crush the foreheads of Moab and the heads of all the Shethites. Edom will become possession. Seir is a possession of its enemies, while Israel does valiantly. One out of Jacob shall rule and destroy the survivors of Ir. Okay, or Ir, I don't know which one it is. Then he looked on Amalek and uttered his oracle, saying, first among the nations was Amalek, but its end is to perish forever. Understand now, these are oracles that are used as a justification for genocidal movements under Saul and David. Okay? So it's not just for this invasion, but they are also used as a justification for later genocides that are committed in that area. Then he looked on the Kenite and uttered his oracle, saying, enduring is your dwelling place, and your nest is set in a rock. Yet Cain is destined for burning. How long shall Ashur take you away captive? Again he uttered this oracle, alas, you who shall live with God when God does this. But ships shall come from Kittim, and shall afflict Ashur and Eber, and he also shall perish forever. Now the ships, they're not Israelites. That's some other outfit. Okay, then Balaam got up and went back to his place, and Balak also went his way. Okay, enough said.
So how would Balaam have known about God, the one God?
Because, okay, and this is an important point. That's a great question. How would Balaam know about God if he's pagan? Okay. This passage is considered pre-priestly. Okay, so this passage doesn't take into account all the rules and specifications that are unique to Israel's worship of God. And what you have in pre-priestly writings is something where God is a much more universal type of being. It's an important point to make that God spoke to someone who was not an Israelite in order to fulfill his will. And the reason why it is in the book of Numbers is because they are anticipating that God will speak to the king of Persia. And then in later writings in the Old Testament, you see them celebrating the fact that God did speak to the king of Persia and sent the people back to their homeland. That God was not restricted into whom God could speak. Okay? So the hope is, now understand this guy's up in Syria, so this is really tucked into the Persian Empire at this point. Okay? God is speaking to somebody that maybe the king of Persia would have gone to buy off a curse or something. Okay? So what they're doing in this passage is opening up to the king of Persia the potential that God could also speak to the king of Persia. And that's the primary reason it's in there. Okay? Oh, and by the way, God isn't going to say anything to the king of Persia that counters what he said to Balaam. Okay? There's another place where you see this angel with a sword drawn. You know where that is? One of my favorite passages in the Old Testament, actually. It's where, on the verge of the attack on Jericho, Joshua goes out to pray, and the angel of the Lord stands before him with sword drawn. Okay? And Joshua wants to know, are you fighting for us or are you fighting for them? And he says, neither. But as captain of the Lord's host have I come. Okay? So this angel is not under Joshua's command. Joshua is under the angel's command. The question is not, are you on my side? Okay? The question is, are you on the side of the angel? You know? And that's why it was so presumptive for the Nazis to have on their belt buckles, Gott mit uns, as if they commanded what God would do. Okay? Joshua is not in a position to command God to do anything. So this is one of the funniest stories in the Old Testament where the donkey talks, and you know. But anyway, I wanted you to know how this worked out, that God spoke to somebody who was not an Israelite, that the person was well aware that there was a God who would speak to him, and there you go, my downfall. But you should also know this, in 1967, there was a discovery in the region where this guy came from. There was some writing in some plaster fragments that evidently had been on the columns of a temple that referred to Balak, or to Balaam, as a great seer. So they have confirmation that this guy really did exist. And, but he wasn't talking to Yahweh, he was talking to some of the pagan gods and goddesses. That's where he's getting his info at that point. So, but at least you have a reference to this person, so you know that they're not just making him up. Okay, any discussion on that?
So where's Israel today on the map?
Israel today starts down here at the port of Elat, okay, and goes up to the Dead Sea, and over here is Transjordan. Israel is on the western side of the Jordan, okay? There's a big section on the western bank of the Jordan, which we call the West Bank. And that's where the Palestinians have control, actually, of their own territory. Israel, though it had conquered it, left it to independent administration by Palestinians. Same thing with Gaza. Israel had conquered that area, but turned it over to the Palestinian people. They did not, prior to this whole hullabaloo, occupy Gaza. They held Gaza in check. So because they, evidently they were right about it. There were reason to fear these people. There's also reason to fear the people on the West Bank. So Israel controls their borders very strictly, okay? But both Gaza and the West Bank are ruled by virulently anti-Israel governments that do not look after their own people, okay? But they exist because Israel has tolerated their existence up until now. And the reason Israel did not want to incorporate those territories is they did not want the Arab populations to outpopulate them when it came to elections. So these people are not Israeli citizens. They do not vote in Israeli elections. However, if they did, then that would change the character of Israel from being a Jewish state.
As you said, we understand those fears.
Yeah, we're getting to understand those fears quite a bit. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed the lesson. It looked like this one actually uploaded, and I'm welcoming everybody who watches this online. I want you to know we did not entirely go away, but I will not be here next Sunday because I'll be baptizing a great-granddaughter over in Georgia. So we're looking forward to that trip. But God bless you all, and we shall see you once again.
Who's taking the pictures?
Huh?
Who's taking the pictures?
I don't know. Is somebody taking pictures?
This is a comfortable chair.
Thank you.